days around.
Hello and welcome to the Tottenham America channel. Today we will be reacting to Newcastle's shocking win over Tottenham Hotspurs. They put 6 goals past the Lily Whites on an away day at St. James's Park to keep them in 3rd and send Tottenham packing in 5th, just 2 points above Aston Villa, 3 above Liverpool with a game in hand, and 4 against Brighton, but Brighton have 3 games in hand, so Tottenham could fall as far as 7th after everyone comes to 32 games played. 6 goals today, scored twice from Murphy, twice from Isak, once from Joelinton, and once from substitute Callum Wilson, with a consolation goal coming in the 49th minute from Harry Kane. We'll start with the events of the match in the 2nd minute. Right away, Jacob Murphy gets Newcastle the perfect start. Joelinton strikes the ball at Lloris. Lloris saves it but parries it to the wrong place completely, and Murphy pounces to hammer his effort into the net. 4 minutes later, Joelinton makes it 2 in just 6 minutes. It's a great ball over the top from Cher. No defending ability from Spurs whatsoever. None of the defenders are aware of who's around them or where the ball is. Joelinton gets the ball with a beautiful first touch, rounds Lloris, and just has to pass it into the back of the net. That's after 6 minutes. Then, in the 9th minute, Jacob Murphy gets another one. This is his 2nd goal of the match to make it 3-0 to Newcastle. Son loses the ball in the midfield to Cher. The loose ball falls to Jacob Murphy, who just has to strike it into the back of the net about 30 yards outside of the goal. Right-footed strike into the left side of the net. It's an unbelievable strike from Jacob Murphy. And Tottenham are in absolute devastation just 10 minutes into the match. In the 19th minute, Isak makes it 4-0 against Tottenham Hotspur within 20 minutes. It's a perfect pass from Joseph Willock to release Isak into the back line, and all Isak has to do is round it past Lloris, and he does so with a beautiful finish, and it is 4-0. Isak makes it 5 in the 21st minute as the ball is worked around before Isak collects the ball and just has to hammer it past Lloris. The keeper gets a hand to the ball, but he cannot keep the ball out. And this is, we're talking about 21 minutes into the game. Newcastle lead by 5-0. This is the fastest that any team has ever reached 5 goals since Manchester City won against Watford 8-0. That was the last time that anyone got 5 goals in 20 minutes. We saw a substitution 2 minutes later. Pape Sarr, the 20-year-old, was withdrawn for Davinson Sanchez, who was actually booed off the pitch last time out against Bournemouth. That was the one sub that we had in the first half. And then we went into halftime at Newcastle 5, Tottenham 0.
Halftime came and went after the break. Spurs showed somewhat effort and started to play a little better. In the 49th minute, Harry Kane scored. Harry Kane collected a pass from Højbjerg, dribbled down the left flank, past Sarr, got in with a one-on-one against Pope, and calmly places the ball into the bottom right corner. Spurs have 1 goal back, but it doesn't really matter. In the 67th minute, Newcastle score once again. In the 67th minute, Callum Wilson scores. Miguel Almiron, the substitute, drives into the box, takes a shot. It's then deflected and falls perfectly for Callum Wilson, who has an easy tap-in and scores. Both substitutes linking up for Newcastle to get a 6th goal, and that's how the match ended 6-1. Not a day to remember for Spurs fans.
They were 1 goal off of equaling Spurs' biggest ever first division loss, which was to Liverpool some time ago. It was a 7-1 defeat at the hands of Liverpool, and Newcastle United almost equaled that. And Newcastle United are not world beaters yet. Let's be honest.
They were in the relegation race.
Race last season. We have the players to beat them easily. We have the players to beat them, but because we just have no ability to do anything useful, we crumble from the first minute. First of all, going into this match as a 4-3-3 against a full-firing Newcastle was the worst idea ever.
Yeah, I think Christian Stellini, I think the main reason is that he didn't want to play Sanchez because Longley not being available for this match. He might have been available. He was there, I think, on the bench, but he was not named as a substitute. I don't think Christian Stolini wanted to play Davinson Sanchez against Newcastle in a back five after what happened, after his woeful performance against Bournemouth, and after he got booed off. But eventually he brought him back on to play in the back five for Pape Matar Sarr. And I think that was half the blame goes on Stolini for making that decision in such a big game where we need to play, like, we don't need to take that big risk unnecessarily. Because I think we would have been better off playing Sanchez in the back five than playing back four, which we haven't played in like 2 years. So then half the blame goes on Stolini. The other blame goes definitely on the players. We weren't showing any spirit at all in the first half.
There was no effort whatsoever.
You can see what Conte said after our Southampton game. All that stuff is true.
The only person who actually cared from Tottenham, I think, was Oliver Skip today. He was the only one showing any bare minimum of intent. Everyone else was absolutely terrible. And to lose 6-1 to a team that is so close to you in the table, 6-1 is an embarrassing result. And I don't really see where we go from now. I don't even know what to think.
At one moment, I thought Stolini was going to get sacked at halftime.
Yeah. And I mean, he probably the whole circus starts with sacking Mourinho before a cup final, because I think bringing Mourinho in after Pochettino was a beautiful move, and it paid off the start of 2021 season. Then we started to go downhill, and that was because we brought in Joe Rodon as his only defender when it was very clearly known, he made it vocal that he needed new defenders, so Joe Rodon was not going to cut it. We started to go downhill from there. We lost defenders to injuries. Dyer and Sanchez started to make their usual mistakes, and then we sack him before a cup final. And then we bring in Nuno, then we bring in Conte, and everything just goes down the hill from there. And I think the biggest mistake out of all of this is sacking Conte but keeping his coaching staff, because that's not even sacking Conte. All you've done is taken away the head guy.
Yeah, his coaching staff is the same as Conte. Uh-huh. They're all stubborn in the same way.
Yeah.
Wanting to keep the same formation. We didn't see that today, but really stubborn to play the same players, not wanting to bring on Richarlison, not wanting to play Danjuma. All of that still stays. The only difference is that Conte's in there. It's the same thing as if Conte was back in Italy recovering from his surgery, and Stolini and all of Conte's coaching staff was still there. Yeah. It's literally the same thing. It made no difference whatsoever. Honestly, I think the whole coaching staff should have gone, and I think Ryan Mason should have continued as the caretaker for the end of the season.
Yeah.
Honestly, if you look at Arsenal, they have Arteta, who used to be an assistant manager in...
A former player
for Man City. Not former player for Man City, but former assistant manager for Man City.
Yeah.
And he's a young manager, and Arsenal brought him in. In their first 2 seasons, they weren't very successful. Their second season, they almost made it into the top 4 last season. But now look at them this season. Firing on all cylinders. We need a young manager. I think we're done with experienced managers.
Yeah.
We see that
it's not working for Tottenham.
We tried it once with Mourinho. It did work, but we sacked him when we made that mistake. With Conte, definitely did not work.
Yeah.
So I think it's time for a young manager, and Ryan Mason could be that young manager.
I mean, that loss was just embarrassing. That's worse than 4-0 Leicester. To concede 5 goals in 20 minutes is Wrexham would have done better than this. Wrexham could set up better than this. Wrexham players could do better than what we did today. And I genuinely don't know where we go from here, because we have Manchester United and Liverpool coming up. We're now 6 points behind Manchester United, and they have 2 games to play still. We're now just 2 points above Aston Villa, 3 above Liverpool, who have a game in hand, and 4 above Brighton. And Brighton have 3 games in hand over us. So I really have no idea where we go from here. It's a lot is going to rest on what happens with the manager situation, but nothing's going to change at Tottenham until all of the management is completely shifted. And I'm not talking just Stolini and Mason. I'm talking up to the director of football, even club chairman. That's where it changes. That's where the change needs to come, because Daniel Levy's ideology is all about sacking the manager and not the player, and that has caused us way too many problems. Because one interesting stat, Spurs lost 5-1 to Newcastle on the last day of the season in the 2015-16 season. From that day, not a single player from Newcastle's squad that day remains at the club. For Spurs, 5 of those players who started that day are in the squad. Not just the whole squad. 5 of the players that started are in the squad today, and 4 of them started. Of course, Kane, Son, yeah, but then you factor in guys like Dyer, and then you have to look at the bench. We've still got Sanchez there. There's been no real improvement. Lloris is still here. I think he's overstayed a little bit. We really should have invested in a replacement last year is when we really should have been looking, because now we're suffering the consequences of him overstaying. And so, yeah, this club basically needs to change top down. But that's it for our reactions to Tottenham's embarrassing 1-6 loss to Newcastle at St. James's Park in the Premier League for their biggest defeat in 9 years. If you enjoyed and want to see more Spurs content, although I won't blame you if you don't want to see that, then that's fine by you. But just at least subscribe to the channel so we can go through this pain together. Comment down below what your thoughts were on this absolutely embarrassing defeat. And until next time.
Come on, you Spurs!